I'm Robert Frank, and I spent a year on sabbatical here at Stern in 2008 and 9. That year I helped run the business ethics seminar, the Paduano seminar. And I resisted the temptation to move to Stern, but Bruce Buchanan, who's the head of the Business and Society program, invited me to continue helping to organize the Paduano seminar. And so I've been coming down to New York once a week, late in the week for the Friday seminar, and that's been a good arrangement. I've got two young sons who live in New York who are musicians. I get to see a lot of them, and it's been wonderfully exciting interacting with the people who come and speak at the seminar. It's a business ethics seminar, and it used to be run by philosophers who talked about Aristotle and moral virtues. It's in recent years gone much more in the direction of behavioral science. So what is it that makes people make morally praiseworthy choices? What inhibits them from doing that? The whole idea of why we have moral problems in the first place, I think, has come into sharper focus. And here there's a nice intersection with my own longstanding interests in Darwinian theory. I think most interesting ethical questions are roughly the form: a person wants to do something, but it's going to be injurious to other people if he does it. Is it okay to do it? And the statement of the problem in that form just highlights the standard conflict between individual and group interests that we see in so many Darwinian settings. And that's the challenge, is how to figure out a consistent way of, first of all, determining when the individual shouldn't do what he wants to do. And I've always been fond of the idea that if it's worth less to him to do what he wants to do, then others would be hurt if he did it. Then that's the decision rule I'd recommend, because if you don't follow that rule, then it's always possible to make people better off by switching to that rule. And the program's evolved over the years. Paul Romer has gotten attached to it. He's an economist I've long admired. John Haidt's arrival has been a real shot in the arm for the program. He's a very creative and pioneering thinking in the psychology of moral behavior. Now Jeffrey Miller's here, you're here. It's a group that I feel a very close kinship with, and it's been a terrific environment to spend time and discuss ideas, and now we seem to be moving even a little bit more strongly in this direction. An interesting question is, if this is such a useful way to think about these kinds of issues in a business setting, why is NYU the first place to experiment with this? And you know, I think there's always been a kind of a reluctance to meld Darwinian ideas with other subjects. I think if you go back and look at the history of Herbert Spencer's social Darwinism, that really was kind of a perversion of the Darwinian idea that set back thinking in Darwinian terms by probably 100 or more years. The idea that if it's fit, if it survives, that's good. That's never been my interpretation of Darwin's main message. Darwin saw more clearly than most modern biologists that if the individual wants to do it, that doesn't mean that it's a good thing necessarily for the broader group. So I think you know, somebody had to do it first, and it was the more I do research in behavior and history, the more persuaded I get that chance matters enormously. There's just a whole laundry list of contingencies that can send the patterns off in one direction or another, and it was a sort of a confluence. Bruce Buchanan, I think, has, and this is a self-serving thing to say, because I know he's always been a generous person in terms of his appraisals of my own work, but I find that when he thinks a scholar is worth inviting, I almost always agree with him. And so I think he's got good taste, and he's been effective at getting resources to put behind the project. Yeah, that's an unusual combination of things to occur, so it's not surprising that it doesn't occur often. It's an interesting puzzle that economists have been so slow to pick up on things that have been written about the importance of relative position. It's not a new idea. Adam Smith wrote about it. We saw it in some of Marshall's writings. Thorstein Veblen at the turn of the last century, or the century before last, I guess I have to say now, wrote about it. James Dusenberry wrote about it. It's always been there. It's just that, except during periods of rapidly rising income inequality, it seems to fade from attention. But I think in all periods, your relative payoff is instrumental in determining how your life turns out. If you want to marry well, if you want to get a job that's thought to be interesting, if you want to send your children to a school that's considered a good school, all those things depend much more on your relative resource holdings than on your absolute resource holdings. So yes, I think it has to count as one of the big mysteries why economists have been so slow to embrace that idea, but that's created opportunities for people who are willing to go there. If all the smart economists had gone there decades ago, there wouldn't have been some of the nice opportunities that I see as available for us now.